And I think we can get started. Welcome everyone to the virtual public meeting for the 48th Street from Normal to Cotner Street Improvement Project. Just some housekeeping right at the top. If you look at your Zoom window on the bottom row of icons, you'll see a Q&A button. You can click on that during the presentation and it will it will give you the option to submit questions for a Q&A that we will do at the end of the presentation. My name is Lucas Nelson. I'm a community engagement specialist with Lincoln Transportation Utilities, and I'll be one of your presenters tonight. And also joining me presenting will be Craig Aldridge, one of our senior design engineers. And I just wanted to start this presentation with a brief overview of LTU. Lincoln Transportation Utilities, or LTU, is responsible for operating and maintaining about 2,600 lane miles of streets, and that includes 62 bridges and 88 culverts. And those operations include items such as winter operations and snow removal. And the maintenance can be anything from projects such as this one, or even filling potholes. We also operate and maintain over 1,300 miles of water mains, and our water system is able to treat and distribute about 120 million gallons of water per day. And we also maintain more than 1,000 miles of sanitary sewer lines, as well as 2 water resource recovery facilities. And those 2 facilities can recover about 25 million gallons of water per day. We also are responsible for municipal solid waste collection, as well as recycling for Lincoln and Lancaster County. And we operate and maintain storm sewer infrastructure and watershed, which helps to keep pollutants out of the waterways and also mitigates flood risk while also improving water quality. Just a quick note about general improvements to infrastructure in Lincoln. LTU invested about $53 million in transportation infrastructure in this last fiscal year, including about an estimated $18 million just from the Lincoln on the Move quarter-cent sales tax. And Lincoln on the Move specifically has helped to improve over 220 lane miles of Lincoln streets since it began in 2019. And that quarter-cent sales tax helps contribute about 25% annually to the transportation budget. For 48th Street specifically, I just wanted to provide some quick details about the corridor as well as some of the outreach we've already done on this project. The original paving district was actually created in 1927, and the street was widened from Newton to Pawnee Streets in 1983. And the most recent resurfacing actually took place in 1999. For this specific project, we held an open house in early December of last year just to present some design options at the intersection of 48th and Sumner Streets. We did that because the current signals at that intersection are at the end of their service life, and a replacement signal was not warranted. And so we wanted to bring some different design options to the community and get their feedback just on what the final design could look like. And with that, I'll actually throw it over to Craig for some specific project information.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Craig Aldridge, LTU, Senior Design Engineer Project Manager, been in that position for about 22 years. I think the main purpose of this meeting really is going to be probably to get to the end and answer any questions that you have, but at a very high level, I'll provide a project summary of kind of what we're going to do on this street rehabilitation project very briefly. The next 5 or 6 slides, and then we can get to the end and answer specific questions that you might have. But basically, to kind of regurgitate what you see on the screen there at a very high level, we're basically going to be peeling back the top layer of asphalt on this street and exposing the underlying base that really supports that top layer. And making repairs to that base, whether it's joint and crack sealing, whether it's full removal and replacement. That's kind of to be determined once we expose that top layer. In addition to that, we will be replacing kind of the outside limits of the street, which is the curb and gutter. And that also will include any curb inlets in that area that are deficient or cracked or outdated. We'll be replacing those inlet tops and kind of armoring them, putting a steel plate on those to make them stronger, make them last a little bit longer, and absorb those impacts from vehicles that might hit them. Um, Once we kind of get that done, we're also gonna, once we get the top layer pulled back and those base repairs done, then we're gonna put a brand new layer of asphalt on that street, make it nice, shiny, and smooth and black. And then we'll go ahead and put the pavement markings, nice durable pavement markings back on there that are going to last a long time. And then the last bullet point there is in addition to that, at all of our intersections, we're going to make upgrades to existing curb ramps for our pedestrian friends that use this corridor to make them ADA compatible. So next slide, please, Lucas. So maybe to drill down a little bit farther into there's two blue dots and one red dot on the map that's on the right side of this slide. And I'll kind of work from south to north. At the specific intersections at 48th and Normal, one of the specific improvements that we're going to make there is actually replacing that traffic signal pole and the traffic signal infrastructure on the northeast corner at 48th and Normal. In addition to that, we'll be making some geometric modifications to hopefully make things a little bit safer for traffic, trying to navigate north through that intersection, northbound on 48th Street, north of Normal Boulevard. Moving a little farther north, once we get to South Street, we'll actually be removing that existing signal that's at 48th and South. It's reached the end of its useful life. And we're actually going to replace that signal with an updated and upgraded signal at that same intersection. And then moving farther north up to Sumner Street, that signal is not warranted. Currently doesn't meet any kind of the minimum thresholds for either vehicular or pedestrian traffic through that intersection. So we're actually going to remove that signal at that intersection. And based on the feedback that we got at the public open house, we're going to install a mini roundabout at that intersection at 48th and Sumner. Next slide, please. So talking about access during construction, that's a very important thing, especially for people that navigate the corridor, people that live along the corridor. To do these repairs, really to do them as cheaply and as quickly as we possibly can. The best way to do that is with a full closure to the street. And so that's what we are allowing our contractor to do in this corridor is completely close that street to make those repairs. That being said, we will maintain local access to residents at all times and access for emergency services to Bryan Hospital on the northeast corner of 48th and Sumner will be maintained at all times. There may be some times of temporary inconvenience for homeowners that access 48th Street directly. If there happens to be an area where some of the base layer that when we peel that asphalt back is in a state of disrepair, there may be some times where when they have to form that up or pour concrete there or let the concrete cure that we're going to try to work with homeowners and provide the best alternative to access to their house that they possibly can. But I would say 95 to 99% of the time, we should be able to maintain access for local residences at all times. And again, access to Bryan Hospital on the northeast corner will be maintained at all times. It may not be the most direct route along 48th Street, but we are actively coordinating with Bryan, with Lincoln Fire and Rescue, and LPD to maintain access to that campus at all times. So with that, next slide, please, Lucas. So just a very high level, I'm sure many people have probably already seen this slide. I think we have a web page on our city site, lincoln.amy.gov, dedicated to the benefits of roundabouts. But again, kind of a high level, summary of why we in the engineering community feel that roundabouts work. And the two main points is it really reduces your conflict points as opposed to a traditional intersection from 32 down to 8. So there's a three-quarter reduction in conflict points going from a signalized intersection to a roundabout. The biggest benefit really to roundabouts is that it reduces speed, and that benefit really is to for pedestrians. A reduction in speed of vehicular traffic is always a benefit for pedestrians. And also, when we do have crashes, those crashes, the severity of those crashes is reduced significantly. So those really are the two biggest benefits for a roundabout installation at 48th and Sumner. Next slide. I kind of just touched on this a little bit. Maybe a couple of the more added benefits are, there are some long-term operations and maintenance costs that come with the signal. There's electricity, and then there's maintaining the infrastructure for a signal that stands above ground. So there are lower costs with the roundabout installation over the lifespan of that installation, as well as, just a general intersection operability standpoint. We do see an overall reduction of idling times for vehicles moving through that intersection. Um, that's not to say that it's always the case, but on a general for a general rule of thumb, we do see that reduced idling time for vehicles and better intersection operability overall. Next slide. And then maybe the last thing to get into, maybe the more important thing for everybody here is cost and schedule. So you kind of see those numbers on the screen there. We're looking at a total overall construction cost of just a little over 2 million. 700,000 of that being allocated to our voter approved Lincoln on the Move initiative that was recently repassed. And so that's important to note. As far as construction goes, we're anticipating our contractor, who is K2 Construction, who is also working on the water main in that same corridor. We anticipate that they should begin construction of this sometime in the next 2 to 4 weeks. There's probably a little bit of a gray area there right now. Some of that is dependent on how long it's going to take them to finish up the water main in the area. And then there's some other factors that we're dealing with to try to get them on board and get them hit the ground and running. But as of right now, we anticipate end of August or maybe early to mid-September for them to start construction on this. Right now, the plan is for K2 to start work on the roundabout at 48th and Sumner. That's kind of phase one of the rehabilitation work on this project, is removal of the signal, the existing signal at 48th and Sumner, and then installation of that mini roundabout. And then they'll kind of work north to Cotner and work on the rehabilitation efforts from Sumner up to Cotner, as well as we have some street repairs on Sumner from 48th over west over to Cotner. That's kind of phase one of the project. And then phase two is basically everything to the south of there. But as of right now, again, end of August, first part of September is when we anticipate they'll start. And then we think it's going to take them probably until the summer of 27 to complete all phases of this project. So with that, I will next slide, and I'll turn that back over to Lucas to kind of finish out the slides, and then we'll open it up to question and answer.
Yeah, and before we get to the Q&A, and just a reminder, you can go to the Q&A function and submit a question now. But just to give you kind of a quick overview of what you can expect during construction, of course, you'll likely see barriers or cones, which are intended to just ensure the safety of the construction crews as well as folks in the area, including nearby homeowners and travelers. There will also likely be traffic changes as those improvements are being made, so you'll have the locations changing as the work is shifting between those phases. And you'll definitely see construction equipment that will be present and active in the area, so just make sure you're cautious when it's present. And then you'll also see crews either preparing for or making various improvements along 48th Street, either as they're actively making improvements or while they're doing the staging or coordination for work to come. And of course, with any construction, you can expect dust, dirt, and mud while the improvements are made in the area. And then finally, you should have any coordination between you and the contractor if there are any changes in access to your home or business, as Craig mentioned earlier. And just a quick thank you for sitting in for our presentation. I wanted to introduce some of these resources and give folks a couple more seconds to submit questions. Um, The first resource is our project page. You can visit that page or scan the QR code to go right there. And that gives you a really big overview of all the projects that LTU has throughout Lincoln, as well as timelines. And you can even sort by different sorts of project or different timeframes or years. We also have our closure map, which gives you that same overview, but just of various closures throughout the city, whether they be full closures or lane closures. And each of those closures usually links back to a specific project or even a project page where you can learn more about the specific project. We also offer a text messaging service, which we provide updates on various projects, including this one. So if you like, you can sign up for text messages regarding this project by following that link, and you can find the code that you'll need to send to subscribe. And just finally, a plug for Waze. It's a navigation app that we provide our closure information to directly. And so any closures are updated in Waze as soon as we have them available. And it can help guide you around during construction season. And with that, I will jump to questions. The first question is about the type of crosswalk that will be available for kids crossing 48th Street at Sumner. Um, and just to note that several kids and families use that crosswalk while school's in session to cross 48th to get to Holmes Elementary. And that no crosswalk will likely create a problem for kids trying to cross, and that there is a speeding issue currently on Sumner that folks have observed. So just a general question about what's going to be in place to help address kids crossing 48th.
Yeah, good question. Lucas, I might have you step back a couple
Yeah.
slides to, yep, that one right there. So that's kind of a typical crosswalk installation for a roundabout. And I believe just based on the picture, that might be 33rd and Sheridan, which is a little bit bigger roundabout. The roundabout at 48th and Sumner is going to be a little bit smaller, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at on all four legs of that intersection. Generally, those pedestrian crosswalks are 10 foot, 8 to 10 foot wide in nature. Generally, they have a defined splitter or refuge island in the center so that people can pedestrians can kind of make a two-phase movement. You know, they can make a movement across, one direction of traffic, kind of hang out in the middle, gauge what's happening coming in the other direction, pause a little bit, and then continue on through. Or, if everything's clear, they can make that movement fully through. But that's at a very high level, kind of what we're looking at. And again, so two benefits there is it kind of splits that movement up and provides that refuge in the middle. The other real benefit to the roundabout when it comes to pedestrians, again, is just the lower speeds of vehicles. I think maybe the person that asked the question reference that speeds, maybe along Sumner are higher. Well, that's probably certainly the case along 48th Street as well. And so in this particular area focalized to the roundabout, that is one of the real benefits is that inherently with the roundabout speeds are reduced, and reduction in speed for vehicles is always an increase in safety for pedestrians. So that's kind of the answer to that question. Um, how are pedestrians going to get to Holmes Elementary School during construction? It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that it's not, because we're going to have that intersection torn up. those pedestrians are really going to need to find a different way. If they're used to using that Sumner Street intersection to get across 48th Street to get to Cotner, they may need to find a different way to get there. They may need to go up 52nd up to Cotner or up to A Street and then traverse down Cotner that way to get to where they're going, or 52nd Street or 50th Street down to South Street to get around. It's going to be a little bit inconvenient. We know that. We appreciate the public's patience on that and their understanding on that as we hope to make this intersection safer overall. But that's kind of the way people are going to need to get around it during construction. We hope that construction on that roundabout is done by the end of October. So it's going to be a fairly short, brief, kind of impact to their daily routines as far as the kids getting through that intersection.
Yeah, and just to kind of build off Craig's point, I will note that we actively coordinate with LPS and LPS operations. So we try to monitor how traffic is moving around schools, especially when we have projects in the area. And Holmes Elementary is aware of the project and will likely coordinate with them if they need any additional materials or maps to help guide families to get to Holmes, just to give them that safe route along sidewalks. Uh, and kind of on that same point, and I just since we're already on the topic, someone also asked, what works better at a crosswalk? Would it be buttons that allow kids time to cross, or no button when there are cars that don't have to come to a full stop?
Well, specifically at signalized intersection, yeah, the buttons that will actually trigger a protected movement for the pedestrians are going to work better. In the case of a roundabout, a mini roundabout where we're not going to have those signals, obviously that's not going to be an option. But always where you have a protected movement for pedestrians with a signal, that's always going to be the safer route. Many roundabouts reduce the speed, which is great. Signals, will bring the speeds to zero, and so that's obviously the safer of the two options. But there's a trade-off in the performance, the vehicular performance of that intersection as well by having the signal there. And so we're kind of trying to balance, the overall vehicular operability of that intersection and the safety for the pedestrians. We feel that the mini roundabout is the best option in this particular case.
And then the next question is if this project has already begun, as Normal to South has been closed for months. Uh, I guess Mark Miller, who is the project manager for the water main project as well as this one, could probably talk more about the water main replacement, but it's the water main replacement project that has already started. That is on Normal to South, and we coordinated these two projects so they uh, happen one after the other. I guess, Mark, I don't know if you have any update on the water main project that you want to share.
Well, they're actually just about finished with the section from Normal to Sumner. They're currently going under Sumner and we'll be boring the stuff to the north of Sumner Monday, I believe, next week. So we're waiting on chlorination to pass on the section to the south of Sumner so they can hook up the services before that can be finished. But another note, a side note on the 48th Street paving, 48th Street will be open over the winter as there will be no construction going on during that period from the time the roundabout gets finished to the time it restarts in the spring. So the street will be open during that period.
And then another question, and this is actually about traffic. Will east-west traffic on Normal Boulevard or South Street be affected during the project?
Normal shouldn't be. South Street, I assume with South Street, since they're taking the signal down, that temporary signals will have to be installed to make that work. But that's the only drawback I would think on that.
Yeah, actually, I think the plan, Mark, is we're going to put the new signal back right where the old signal is. And so to do that, yeah, we're basically going to have to de-energize that signal in all four directions. But what we're going to do is we're going to restrict northbound, southbound traffic. So we're going to have that barricaded, and then we'll maintain eastbound and westbound at all times. So basically, you'll be able to go eastbound, westbound through that intersection at all times. But you will not be able to make a move northbound or southbound unless you happen to be a resident that lives along those corridors. Again, the hope is that that makes it cheaper and that makes it quicker to get it done.
Then on the South Street signal, someone asked if the South Street signal will be smart, as in connected to other signals, allowing for adjustable timing, and incorporating other sensors to help with traffic flow.
Yes, great question. But yes, any of our signals on arterial streets, any of the new signals we put in on our arterial streets should be interoperable, should be communicating with one another. We have a pretty advanced system of communication from signal to signal on arterials. Not all of them, but the new ones that we put in, we definitely make sure we do that.
And then someone asked if if the intersection of 40th and Cotner will remain open.
Yes, the south leg of that intersection, we have some pavement repairs that we need to do there. So that's going to have to be phased to maintain access to the Bryan campus. But the west leg, east leg, and then the north leg on 48th Street will remain open, obstruction free at all times.
And I think we may have answered this one, but just to kind of make a note of it, someone asked if the 48th Street will be closed from normal to Cotner for the entire year. As we mentioned, it'll actually begin work around uh, 48th and Sumner as a phase one, and then there will be a break over the winter, and then the other phase will make improvements between Normal and South in the spring. Mark or Craig, I don't know if either one of you wants to elaborate further or talk about what those phases might look like anymore, but just wanted to highlight that one again.
Well, the like I said previously, 48th Street will be open over the winter after the roundabout's finished until the spring of 2027 when they start on the phase two work, which is going to be from Normal to the south, almost to the entrance into the hospital. That'll be we're thinking in July when they'll be finished with that in the phase two stuff.
Yeah, once phase one is done, I believe the plan is to work from Normal to the north up to the south leg of Sumner to that new mini roundabout that's constructed once we get into the spring of 27. That's kind of their plan.
And then I guess less of a question and more of a request, but someone asked that there be some coordination with Bryan to make sure they don't put up any large signage or trees that may block the view of pedestrians that are trying to cross at the roundabout. Um, and they mentioned that there is a major concern already at Cotner and A Street, uh, just because of the way the intersection was planned and how that crosswalk is set up at Cotner and A.
Yeah, I will definitely make a note of that, Lucas. The coordination, I guess I'll relay to that citizen the coordination with Bryan and with LFR and LPD as far as their facility is active and ongoing, and it's going to continue to be ongoing as the project progresses. But I've made a note of that, and we'll definitely chat with them. I can tell you there's one tree on the northeast corner of the intersection of 48th and Sumner that will be removed as part of the project. It happens to fall right where we have one of the pedestrian access crossing points for that roundabout. And so it's going to need to come out. So that's obviously going to help with the pedestrians and being able to see, northbound and southbound on 48th Street. But I made a note of that, and we'll make sure to continue to coordinate with Brian on those issues.
And then on the conversation about the protected pedestrian crossing and the signal, um, someone asked, why are we removing the signal if it does provide that protection at a signalized intersection? And I think we touched upon that that signal is sort of at the end of its service life, but is also not warranted for replacement. I don't know if there's any additional details that anyone would like to add, but I think we mentioned that during the presentation already.
Yeah, I think it's just the long-term operation and maintenance costs of a signal that isn't warranted. Doesn't mean we can't put a signal back there. It's just we have to balance what is the best use of taxpayer dollars in that particular instance. And if the federal warrants aren't met, um, our stance has been from a long-term operation and maintenance cost standpoint. Um, in this particular instance, we're not going to put one back. We're going to put in a mini roundabout to hopefully, reduce speeds and make it safer. That's about all I can add to that point.
And then a question about the winter shutdown. Someone asked, during the winter when 48th is open, will Sumner also be open, but as a roundabout?
Yes, it'll be finished at that point. Yes, the Sumner operation, the overlay on Sumner and the roundabout, when they're done with that, then the winter suspension will begin and it'll be functional for traffic until the spring work starts back up on 48th Street, which will restrict traffic again.
And I think that actually gets through all of our current questions that I have in the Q&A. If anyone else has any additional questions, feel free to submit them. We just got a new one in. Someone asked about the tree at 48th and Sumner that's on the southeast corner. They were just wondering if that will be removed, and they noted that it needs to be trimmed or removed as well because it currently blocks the view and sight lines as they're leaving their driveway.
Just so I'm clear, can you repeat that southeast corner of 48th and
Sumner.
Sumner? Okay.
Yep.
I will definitely reach out to City Forestry on that one. We are not planning to remove that one as part of the project or part of any of the improvements. It's not in line to be removed, but I will definitely reach out to our city forester and see if there's something that can be done as far as trimming that up to improve sightlines.
And then someone asked when in the spring work will likely begin again. I don't know if we have a specific date. I guess, Mark, do you
No,
have any broad estimate?
no, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say April would probably be a pretty good guess, sometime in April, possibly the first week of April, weather dependent, of course. They usually like to start as soon as they can when the weather's consistently good, and that usually works out to be about the first week of April. It seems like. So that's what I would think.
And I'll just ask again if there are any more questions while we wait. I'll just put back up our resource page just to give folks some time. And I'll also note that while you may be typing questions, we are recording this presentation and we'll plan to post it on the project page. So if you want to watch it again, if you want to see the presentation again, or more likely, if you know someone that wasn't able to make it that would be interested in seeing the presentation and watching the webinar, we'll have a recording available to view. And then while we're doing a last call for questions, I want to jump here to our project contacts during construction. You've already heard from Mark. He's our project manager on this project. And then also joining us is Russ Gasper, who is the senior construction engineer for LTU. They will both be contacts on this project during construction, and their emails are included here. So you can contact them, but that information is also already on the project page for the 48th Street Water Main project, as well as the street improvement project. So you should be able to find it there if you don't record it now. Someone also asked for Craig's email, so I will just go back to that first slide.
And then I guess if somebody would rather call me, Lucas, I'll give that information as well. I don't know if you can respond in the Q&A box, but 402-416-5349 is my city cell number. Anybody that's listening can feel free to give me a call or an email or a text, anyone.
And Craig, can you say that one more time so I can type it out?
402-416-5349. And that's my direct cell number, so it will go straight to me. You won't have to deal with any front office staff on that one.
And then someone just asked if Craig is the right person to talk to about Cotner and A Street for improvements there. Uh, I guess,
Yes, I am
yeah,
actually.
technically you are, Craig.
Yeah, yep. Fortuitously enough, yes, I am the person to talk to about that one.
And you can actually find more information about a proposed project on A Street if you go to our projects page. You can search A Street from 40th to 56th Street. That project is still in the design phase, and we held an open house for it about 2 weeks ago now. And we have materials from that open house available on the webpage. So you can go there and learn more about that project. As I mentioned, it's in design, so there is time to learn more about it and send any information you might have to Craig. Seeing no other questions, I'll just put Mark and Russ's contact information up as I say thank you to everybody. And as I mentioned, we'll have a recording posted to the 48th From Normal to Cotner project page. So you'll be able to find this information there. And thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you.